Today, we're going to be speaking with a broker owner who purchased a brokerage and then within 5 years tripled the production of the agents in that brokerage. Today, she's going to tell us exactly how she did it. Stay tuned. This episode of Keeping It Real is brought to you by Real Geeks. How many homes are you going to sell this year? Do you have the right tools? Is your website turning soft leads into interested buyers? Are you spending money on leads that aren't converting? Well, Real Geeks is your solution. Find out why agents across the country choose Real Geeks as their technology partner. Real Geeks was created by an agent for agents. They pride themselves on delivering a sales and marketing solution so that you can easily generate more business. Their agent websites are fast and built for lead conversion with a smooth search experience for your visitors. Real Geeks also includes an easy-to-use agent CRM. So once a lead signs up on your website, you can track their interest and have great follow-up conversations. Real Geeks is loaded with a ton of marketing tools to nurture your leads and increase brand awareness. Visit realgeeks.com/keepingitrealpod and find out why realtors come to Real Geeks to generate more business. Again, visit realgeeks.com/keepingitrealpod. And now, on to our show. Hello and welcome to another episode of Keeping It Real, the largest podcast made by real estate agents and for real estate agents. My name is DJ Paris. I am your guide and host through the show. And in just a moment, we're going to be speaking with Lisa.Troyano-ascolese. Before we get to Lisa, just a couple of reminders. By the way, if this is your first time checking us out, welcome. And if it is not your first time, welcome back. We appreciate you. The best way that you can always help us continue to grow, three things. I'm going to ask for three things. One, of course, tell a friend about the show. There's lots of realtors that don't know about us, so please let them know about Keeping It Real. Another way is by supporting our sponsors. They help keep the bills paid. We love our sponsors, and every sponsor we hand select with specifically really wonderful tools and services to help your real estate business. And third, leave us a review wherever you're listening or watching this episode. Please let us know what you think of the podcast. It helps us continue to get better and better. All right, enough of me. Let's get to the main event. My conversation with Lisa.Troyano-ascolese. Today on the show, our guest is Lisa.Troyano-ascolese. She's a broker owner, she's a podcast host, she's a top producer, she's a speaker, she's a total superstar in Hoboken as well as in Jersey City. She has two offices there. They service New Jersey. But let me tell you more about Lisa because she's really an amazing guest that we are able to have on the show. So Lisa describes herself as a serial entrepreneur. She is the sole owner, licensed partner, and broker of record for Engel and Volker's Hoboken and Jersey City real estate brokerages, as well as the My Hoboken real estate team leader. She recently released the first to market mobile staging app called Restaged with the hopes of helping with the planet's rising furniture waste issue. She's a podcast host, a public speaker, and a decorated award-winning entrepreneur. Lisa thrives in purpose searching and business creation. With a Bachelor of Science in Marketing and Management from Siena College and a partial MBA studies, Lisa has risen in multiple organizations before leaving corporate America and following her dreams of working for herself. She began a career in real estate over 10 years ago, utilizing her strong background in online advertising sales and marketing for several Fortune 500 companies to sell some of New Jersey's most prestigious properties. Her clientele has included professional athletes, prominent members of the entertainment industry, among other high net worth individuals. She's known for her unbridled enthusiasm, unique marketing techniques, and knowledge of the real estate market as a whole. Lisa continues to win awards for both real estate and entrepreneurship. To see all of the super cool things Lisa is up to, please check her website, which is LTA endeavors.com. Literally everything she does is on there. But also, I want you to follow her on Instagram, My Homeboken. So it's like My Hoboken, but Home instead. We'll have a link to that as well in the show notes. Also, subscribe to her podcast, which is called Breakfast with Brokers, which she does weekly, and she interviews agents and basically talks about the market. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for that intro. That was awesome.
You do a lot of things.
I do a
Very,
lot of
very
things.
impressive.
Yeah,
We
I'm exhausted.
Lisa, yeah. Well, yes, I can appreciate that. We have one brokerage here. You have two brokerages. I can't even imagine doing two. We have one with just under 800 agents, and that is keeping us very, very busy.
Yeah.
But the idea of having two, that just makes my head spin. But you not only are doing that, you're also hosting a show. You also are an entrepreneur, you're a speaker. You do it all. And most importantly, you develop agents. I want to talk about this because one of the most important or impressive things I saw from you is that not only did you purchase Engel and Volker's and you opened these two offices, but you also tripled the production of those offices. And let's be honest, that is not easy to do. And Engel and Volker's is already an amazing brand. We have them here in Chicago, clearly a name that people respect and admire, certainly one of the white glove firms. But to triple the production of any office, regardless of the name that's on the sign out front, is, I mean, I would love to triple our agents' production. So tell me what you're doing or what you did, because I think our show is all about agent development. So tell us how you think. Well, before we get to that, I'm so sorry. I got to go with my first question. We will get to agent development second. Sorry. Tell us how you got in the industry.
Yeah. So actually ties well into your second question. So I was in online advertising sales in Manhattan, working for several Fortune 500 companies. And I worked for an incredible man who had an open door policy. So I literally sat next to the CEO of the company in this giant loft. There were no doors. It was just, he had this great open air policy, basically come in, pitch me whatever idea you might have, and I'll critique it. I'll give you my feedback. He was like, he was a serial entrepreneur and just off the charts. Brilliant. And I had this idea for like an event planning company, and I went to him, and I remember sitting across the table from him, and he's going through my business plan. I'm like, what did I just do? I just gave my boss my exit strategy. Like, this is the dumbest idea. I fell right into it. And like, he closes it up and he was like, what's the problem? It's great. And I was like, well, I have a job here. And he's like, I'm laying off half the company tomorrow. No, you're never safe when you work for someone else. And I was like,
that's true.
What? And he flat out said, I loved his honesty. He flat out was like, you don't make enough money. I'm not laying you off, but half the company will not be here tomorrow. And
yeah.
I was like,
well, it's an important thing, by the way, to realize that if you are, for people that do have corporate jobs or maybe are thinking about getting into real estate, I was one of those people who was very highly compensated at a tech firm prior to this. I had just gotten a perfect review. I had gotten a raise, and then I got laid off a week later, even though all signs pointed to I am doing great. But because I was so highly compensated, I was very easily, they could get rid of me pretty easily. So that's a really strong point.
Yeah. And I went on to go through like 6 or 7 rounds of layoffs. And then finally they closed my division of the company, and I was out on the street. They had no money left. They didn't give me any severance. And I remember being like, I'm going to just get at the time, my late mother was a realtor. And I was like, I'm just going to get my real estate license. All of my friends were moving to Hoboken. I'll do a couple rentals and it'll pad the bills. And
sure.
I remember jumping into it with, I had the event planning company that I was starting, and kind of started doing time, and I had to make a decision worth my time. And I was kids one side or $1 million condos on the other. And I was like, I'm going to the condos. So I closed my company and I started time as a mom and pop company. Eventually bought the remaining owner out, and here we are. So real estate, yay!
Unbelievable. It's amazing. It's funny how people get into this business and then some, ultimately become, broker owners. So let's talk a little bit about agent development, as I was getting to at the beginning and realized I hadn't properly sort of gotten your story. How do you think about training? And again, Engel and Volkers is really a brand, at least here in Chicago, and I'm guessing in most parts of the country, where it's I don't know that there's a lot of brand new agents who join Engel and Volkers. I know it's a lot of like, hey, once you get to a certain level, that's a place. And again, maybe they do train new agents as well. But regardless, as a broker owner, you are always wanting your agents to do better production, more production. And of course, you're there to guide them. So
Sure.
how do you think about that? And, tell us like kind of what you're talking to your agents about right now as 2024 just started. We had a tough year last year, at least here in Chicago. I know we did. Probably you guys dealt with the same high interest rates and low inventory that everywhere else did. So how are you thinking about this year?
I'm cautiously optimistic. If you asked me that question, I think 3 months ago, I would have told you batten the hatches and grab your helmets and that's it. But I have to tell you, I think, I mean, our market's a little resilient in that regard. Like we're 5 minutes outside Manhattan. You can get into Manhattan
Right.
from Hoboken in 4 different ways, like train, bus, boat, Uber. We're right across the river. So for us, we always bounce back a little bit quick, and we're about 9 months out of Manhattan's market. So or 9-month lag, I should say, for Manhattan's
Sure.
market. So we have a nice, like, people are always moving in and moving out, moving in, moving out. So there's always like a decent amount of transactions for us. That being said, when we closed last year, there were 53 properties on the market for 60,000 people. And there's
Ooh,
1,011 realtors that identify as Hoboken as their market. So
right.
the math is just not mathing. So it's it's one of those situations where I think we're going to continue to see low inventory. Anything that comes on the market gobbled up with multiple offers over asking. And I think the low inventory is really what's keeping us going and keeping that steady. But a lot of parts of, like, we service North Jersey, a little bit of West, and we serve South Jersey as well. Not all those markets, but certain pockets of those markets. And, we're seeing it across the board. So I think as long as demand remains that high, we will continue to have a healthy situation. We need a little bit more inventory. And I'm sure you guys are seeing the same thing. By us, the issue is, we have everybody that is stuck in these 2.5% interest rates. And during COVID, all of the pricing shot up. I mean, our single family market in Hoboken went up 24% in 2 years.
Wow.
So now, that brownstone that was 1.8 is, significantly higher. Now you can't get anything decent for under 2.5. And again, the math isn't mathing. It's like people are like, well, I'm just going to stay in my condo until these rates come down. So I think if we just see a 5, if we just see 5,999,999, like just a 5, I think we would have like a wild spring. But I don't know. I mean, now they're
No,
talking
yeah,
about,
no one has the crystal ball. It's funny. I hear everyone's got their own number whether it comes to rates. I hear 6.3.
Mhm,
Obviously, 5.9 would be amazing. We
yeah.
don't know. I'm actually going to see Lawrence Yoon, who's the NAR chief economist, and next week. I'm just lucky enough that he's in Chicago because
Wow.
NAR is here. Despite all of their problems, we're still having this
I was
market
going to say, are
outlook.
we going there? Or?
No, we won't go there. I don't know if you saw, there was news yesterday about,
I did.
everyone.
I
So yeah,
did.
I'm very curious to see what that's about, but that's just the gossipy part of me. But anyway, I will get to chance to come back and do an episode on what Dr. Yoon predicts for this year. He's usually fairly accurate, but this is a big problem, right? I think it's 85%. Yeah, 85% of US homeowners with a mortgage have less than 5% rate.
Yeah.
So as you're saying, I mean, I'm at 2.9%. Like, I'm not
Same.
moving. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's a problem. But does the math work? And this is, I guess, the question, and it's market specific, but I'm curious, does the math sort of work when rates are where they're at now, just because, you're dealing with a lot of cash offers, I bet. So
We
that
do.
may that
Yeah.
may sort of negate what I'm about to say. But for non-cash offers, I think now might actually be a decent time to buy, because if
Great time.
rates do drop to the low sixes, it's going to be so much competition. I just wonder if people are going to be vastly overpaying if they were to buy today. I'm just
I
curious
mean,
what your
they're
thoughts
already
are on that.
I'm already on like 3 group chats with friends and family, like talking about my in-laws have a house that went up across the street from them. They live in a modest block, back up to a commercial district, like not a cul-de-sac, like not like, everyone's like, and the house just hit for 2.8. And it's like, What? Like, it's, I
Yeah,
think
so
it's,
everyone's already overpaying.
I think everyone's
Um,
really overpaying. But I also think that, like, to your point, right now is a great time to buy because you have a little bit of leverage. And, whatever's still sitting on the market right now might not necessarily be bad. It just might be, it was mispriced, or, it's not the typical, all white modern farmhouse everyone wants. Like, it just might be a
sure.
little different that you could change. I think to your point, it's a great time to buy.
I also want to talk a little bit about brokerages. So this is something we don't ever talk about on the show. And being somebody who's in management at a brokerage, I think there's a lot of times a disconnect between what agents maybe expect from a brokerage and also just how
Mm,
brokerages work. I think one myth that I'd like as a broker owner, you can I probably appreciate dispelling is that the margins for brokerages are high. They're really not. And brokerages are in competition with other brokerages, of course, for commissions and everything. So, we're at a situation where I think agents continue to like clients squeeze the agents squeeze the brokerages. Things are changing a bit. Do you think there's going, and of course the lawsuits with respect to commissions, do you
yeah.
think there's going to be like a massive change in the next several years with how agents are compensated? Obviously, it's a crystal ball question, but just curious about how it's all going to is are things going to fundamentally change? Do you think?
I mean, I think yes. I think frankly we're the last industry that hasn't been shook up, right? We're the last ones that, the taxis had Uber and Blockbuster had Netflix. We're the last ones that really haven't had a major shakeup. So yeah, I think something's coming. What that is, to be honest, I have no idea. You're absolutely right.
Sure.
The margins are very thin for brokerages. I mean, I only have 33 agents across two brokerages, and that's kind of by design.
Sure.
Because but to your point, more agents is more money, right? So it's like I think the power of the brokerage was diminished with certain models that emerged, not naming names, but the capping model. And I think a
Sure.
lot of things were dangled in front of agents' faces, like, you should come here, you could make 95% of your commission. It's like, right, but now you have a bunch of people running around the industry that don't know what they're doing and have absolutely no one to call. I mean, there's a
Right.
brokerage, and again, I would never call anyone out, but there's a brokerage where it took me 2 months to find the broker. 2 months on where to send the check. Like,
Yes.
it's I mean, really? So I think, to a point, and this is a good segue into your other questions, I think everything's gonna go back to some level of basics, and you hear Tom Ferry talk about it, you hear Buffini talk about it, but there's gonna be some level of back to basics. And I think what we offer, and what I'm sure you do as well, is, you need some sort of guidance. You need somebody. I came up with a mentor perspective where I could call that person at 9 p.m., or I can call him at midnight, or I can call him at 1 in the afternoon, and he picked up. And that's
Yeah.
100% why I became a successful agent quickly, because I had answers to
100%.
questions.
Yeah, I can't think of anything more important for an agent who's newer or just looking to increase production is having somebody who's either doing slightly better than they are or who's just an industry veteran who can say, like, here's how to do it, call me when you need help. And brokerages, I think, are a lot of them are starting to move more towards the team model, which
Mm,
teams a lot of times can pick up the slack of where a brokerage maybe which smaller maybe doesn't have as much support or training. I'm seeing that a lot happen here in our market here. We're seeing a lot of brokerages step away from training and kind of
mm,
put that on the laps of the team leaders. So that's kind of interesting. But again, there's quality control issues with that, I'm sure.
right.
Depends on the team, of course. But the idea of just having a mentor is so critical. We are actually finally putting a true mentorship program together this year at our
Right.
brokerage. It's taken us a long time, and it's really tricky, as you know. Mentorship programs are tricky because
Yep.
you don't want to give your agent that just joined you a bad experience. At the same
Mhm.
time, you're putting a lot of trust into the whoever the mentor is, and at the same time, you have to figure out how you're constantly communicating with both to make sure that everybody's happy and getting what they need. And of course, but that's what a brokerage should be doing. That's
Right.
literally part of the job if that's something they offer. Or if they don't offer that, they should have, hey, if you call between this time and this time, you're going to get one of us on the phone. We're here to help you. We're here to help. But not every brokerage is like that. I will say this to anyone listening: if you are somebody who is calling and you don't get good responses, this is the year to maybe explore other options, see what other firms offer, because mentorship, support, training, these are the things that you are paying for your brokerage. Please, please, please take advantage of them. Yes, if you're going to a firm that doesn't have these things, but they offer you like the highest commissions, okay, fine. You get that that's a trade-off. But really understand that there are other solutions out there, and maybe it makes sense to earn less commission if you're getting better, of course, better training and support. What are you encouraging your, talk about fundamentals, what are you encouraging your agents to do this year just to sort of stay busy? You know, we can't control the interest rates or the market inventory, but we can control our actions. So just curious on what you're seeing successful agents do right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're actually approaching it from like a three-prong approach. So basically, we're looking at the people that actually have to move. So I'm encouraging them to develop relationships with, attorneys that might handle trust and estate work, attorneys that might handle divorce. Really get in touch with old like retirement communities. And let if you have somebody moving in, they most likely have to sell something. I mean, really acting as an advisor for these people that are going through a very scary transition in their life. Like, I think this country doesn't do a good job of kind of protecting our elderly people, and it's a scary time for them, right? And they're saying, I just saw another podcast, I don't remember the name, but it was like they're calling it the silver tsunami. And it's like most of the transactions that will happen in the next 5 years are people over 65 cashing out. And I think the best thing you can do, or any agent can do, is really start to make relationships in that realm. That's certainly something I never knew anything about. And now I have wonderful relationships with divorce attorneys and trust and estates attorneys, and that sort of thing. I think that's going to be key going forward, because so many of those baby boomers are cashing out in the next couple of years.
Oh yeah, great point, Lisa. So everyone listening, if you do not have relationships with divorce attorneys, estate planning attorneys, accountants, financial advisors, these are all people that deal with a lot of times someone's entire net worth, and so they understand the situation. Somebody is having a life event change or inheriting a bunch of money, maybe from a parent who is passed away. Baby boomers are going to be transferring a trillions of dollars down to over the next handful of years to their siblings, or sorry, their offspring. And this is the time to build those relationships, so that when it maybe even becomes a tax advantaged reason why somebody buys or sells or puts something in a trust, that you're their person. So now's the time to start reaching out to those providers and start saying, I want to build a relationship with you. I want to learn, how can I send you business? And, here's what I look for. And you
And
can,
also I'm sorry to interrupt
no,
you, to be ethical about it.
yes,
It's a scary time. I think that generation is very, everyone's out to get their money, so it's one of those
yeah.
things to really approach it from like a place of assistance and a place of helping, and be like, we're going to make sure that everything's safe and your kids get everything and you're happy. And just being an ally in that process, that is, and to me, sounds terrifying. I think that's going to go a long way, and it's actually doing something nice with what we're doing. So I think it's a great option.
It's an amazing option. I'm so glad you mentioned that, because we are fiduciaries. So we are responsible for making sure we're doing what's in our client's best financial interest. And as Lisa just said, it's really the right thing to do. So I would say in every conversation or every client conversation at some point, say, hey, by the way, do you have somebody managing your estate? Do you have a will? Do you have some of this set up? Not that you have to get involved as the agent, but you just want to say, I just want to make sure everything's protected and that we're doing things in the right way, even if it's just to show that you care. That even just saying that demonstrates, I care about your situation, and I know people that can help with this. If you need that, do you have a good
Yeah.
accountant? Do you have a good financial advisor? Do you have enough insurance? Are you covered in everything?
Right.
Even though, yes, we're selling homes, we want to make sure that this home fits into your financial plan. I bet if an agent would say that to a potential client, and maybe they're interviewing 3 or 4 other realtors as well, I bet those other agents probably wouldn't bring up those kind of things, because it gets tricky where you don't have to answer those questions when they're like, well, what about this? And I say, hey, that's not my area of expertise, but I have people that can help you with that, or let's
Yeah.
just get everyone on the same page.
Yeah, totally.
From a marketing perspective, because that's your background, I want to
Mm.
talk about what marketing strategies do you see working like right now? What do you see agents doing that's successful? Maybe what do we see agents doing that you sort of shake your head and go, not a good idea?
Yeah, I think, this whole concept of agents having to be their own social media marketers, I think some are born for this, and I think some need to hire someone. It's I think it's along the I think you have to find a place, and this is one thing that we do offer is like that you can stand out, right? And I think a lot of agents, there's a lot of ego involved in this business. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it and and there's part of that that's actually really great because it allows these agents to kind of create this persona and they create this whole business surrounding that ego and it's wonderful. It can also go in a very bad direction. So I think it's one of those things where find a way that you can create a platform for yourself where you stand out because like I said earlier, we have 1,011 realtors that identify with Hoboken as a that's insane. We're 1 square mile. So you really need, I think 78 of us do the most work. You need a way to stand out. I mean, social media is still free, which is crazy to me. Like that, I mean, the fact that people aren't diving into that, diving into AI in certain ways, like that's the fun part of this, I think. Like come up with creative videos for yourself, not just for properties. Um, Market yourself through video. If you're sending, don't just send emails. What's an open rate for an email now? It's like nothing. If
Yeah,
you
nothing.
send it with a video on it that's somewhat interesting or directed to that person. So we're doing a lot of that. We're doing a lot of very targeted marketing. We also utilize our network. So Anglin Volker is in 33 countries around the world, and we actually work very well together. You mentioned the one in Chicago. I think we just sent him something a couple weeks ago. Like we work very well on the referral side of things, and we double down on that because we do have a great relationship with the shop. So I think, kind of find your niche and then get it out into the world. I also think, and this is a buzzword, so I hate to, I can watch my agent, Tom Worley, rolling his eyes right now if he's ever listening to this, is the term authentic. I think we were being authentic before authentic was cool. And I think that's key. Like we do this all the time. We're doing multiple transactions a month, all that stuff, but we forget that a lot of times this is like the most important transaction for someone. So out there renting a Bentley and driving around the street like acting like that does nothing for anybody. It's you want to authentically present a home, authentically present yourself and kind of cut away with all that craziness. Like I think that's a big trend that's going to go haywire the days of rolling up to the estate in the McLaren. I think are done. I think it's you got to
Yeah.
do something a little bit more authentic.
I think you're right, and good riddance to those days, in
Right.
my opinion, because well, and there's nothing, again, everyone's different, and cheers to the people that do that, and I'm not here to disparage them,
Right.
but I think authenticity, the way I think about it, is skills, honesty and skill. So it's like, are you actually telling the truth? Are you presenting
Right.
your actual self? And are you good? Are you actually
Mhm.
useful to the agent? And the useful agents always do business. It's funny. And you guess you have to have a good marketing plan, and you have to. There's more to it than just being good, but being good is really the most important thing. And
Yeah.
this is the year to sharpen skills because, as I'm sure you're seeing this in your market, yeah, there's 1,000 agents who identify, as Hoboken, but I'll bet you by the end of this year there won't be 1,000 agents. I'll bet you there'll
Right.
be a lot fewer, and the agents that are still around and doing all of those things to sharpen their skills and keep their marketing strong are going to gobble up market share. I mean, I
Yeah.
certainly hope that's what happens because we certainly could use in this industry. Some agents probably do need to leave the industry, not of their own fault. Maybe they were never trained well. Maybe they don't. It's just not really their job.
Right.
But we're going to see. I mean, we're already seeing it. We have a holding company for agents that don't actively practice. We started it like 10 years ago, just like as a goof, like, well, I guess we should have a holding company. Started with one agent. Now we have 1,000 agents in there. In the last year, we've seen 200 people join our holding company. Not like
Wow.
from our firm over to our holding, just in the whole state of Illinois. So we're seeing huge people leaving, which should be very actually both scary and very exciting to anyone listening to this, because
Yeah.
exciting because you're going to have more opportunity, scary because it could happen to you too. So I
Right.
think it's important that if you just keep doing the right things and learning, I don't see any reason why somebody wouldn't be successful. But I like, so we talked about social media. Yes, of course, videos, but and right now I think if we think about how do I be useful on social media, there's all sorts of ways to do that. Pick a micro market, some sort of geographic area, and do videos about that area and
Yeah.
highlight the restaurants you could do all sorts of fun things that are really useful to the community. And then you could then go into those like restaurants, say, hey, I just made a video about you guys here. I just wanted to let you know I'm going to tag you. You guys, if you want to send it out, that'd be great too. And there's all sorts of ways to get immersed in the community. But I think that's going to be the key, is getting back to those basics of getting involved in the community, learning your skills. But I am curious, what are you seeing anything else? Like, are you seeing traditional mailers, for example? I'm hearing of agents going back to doing a lot of physical mailers.
To me, the mailer thing, I've never got it. I'll never be a proponent of it. I know there's success with it. I know you have to do it like 45 times upside down, hanging from a lock of hair. I don't know. Everybody talks about it like it's the God's gift to our business. I don't get it. I have agents that do it, and I support that. I love it. To me, it's so much money. It's just litter. Like, and I'm not, I'm not saying like from an environmental perspective. It's just, I mean, I personally get like 6 a week. And I'm an agent. So it's like, to me, I don't know. I don't get the mailer thing. I get that it works. And if that's if you swear by it, by all means die on that hill. But for me, I don't get the mailer thing personally. I think you're way better utilizing video in unique ways. I sent out a text yesterday. I went through all of my old landlords and gave them a video just saying, hey, you may have made a lot of money. Like, let me know if you have any interest in selling, because this is the difference of what you could make. And here's a net proceeds worksheet, blah, blah, blah. I have like 6 meetings next week just from doing that. And I don't have a ton of landlords. I have maybe like 20 to 30 landlords, and I have 6 meetings. I mean, that's a huge return. So I feel like
Huge.
that sort of thing, I think we're going to need to get creative, and I think we're going to need to learn how to serve videos. I think video and social, or anything you can do from text messaging, is fantastic.
Yeah, and I love that with text messaging, with systems like BombBomb or Loom, where what's really cool, if anyone listening hasn't explored those, what's really neat is if you know somebody with one of those accounts, have them send you one just as a test. Because what's cool is they'll take a video, and this really you can send it if you're like iPhone to iPhone, or I don't know what it looks like for Android. But what's cool is it will literally take the video that you make and create like a little GIF, 3-second GIF, and then it'll send it to the person, and then they'll see that they have a video for them right in their text message, and they're more likely to click on that. We sent an email. We sent an email to all 700 plus of our agents announcing we have a new managing broker, which is a very big deal for us.
Yeah.
And so we sent out an email on Sunday, which is not the best day to send out an email, but to all of our agents saying, hey, just FYI, this big long thing, here's our new managing broker, welcome her, etc. And then we sent an SMS on Monday just with a video. Yep. And we were curious to what got the higher open rate. We knew text messages would, but it was night and day difference. We had almost 50% of our agents clicked on the link in the text message. About 15% of our agents clicked on the link in the email, or opened the email, even opened the email. And maybe that says more about how we communicate via email than anything, but it's just the way it is. I mean, people are, well, you know this, nobody reads their email. You're a broker owner. Right. You know how it goes. So this idea of utilizing SMS in a way that's not invasive, that's not overly communicative, but like providing value is amazing. It's such a great creative way. And people don't probably want to take your phone calls all the time either, right? So that's a great way to sort of have a conversation without having a conversation, is you're like, hey, I just, here's let's take a look at your property and see if it's a good time to sell.
Yep, 100%. I mean, even if you like, from a brokerage perspective, even recruiting, I mean, I have a great relationship with some of my best agents, and they show me the text messages they get, these campaigns
Isn't it crazy?
It is wild. I mean, you'll have like, hey, want to work here? And they're like, no, thanks. And they're like, hey, but you really should work here. And they're like, no, thanks. And he's like, please work here. It's like, oh my God. And it's just, it's like relentless. I mean, to the point where I think it almost turns them off. Like,
totally.
it's I don't know. I think there's an art to it, and I think that's really going to separate like who makes it through this next transition is who can figure out what that art is and how you can do it authentically to yourself and really utilize these because there are so many tools that I mean I don't even know if you've dove into AI at all, but like I try and do like a little each week because it is
Yeah.
the stuff you can do with that is incredible.
I mean, the most obvious application, or the first one I had heard of was drop in your listing description, and it'll rewrite it, or you tell it to rewrite it in a particular way. You can also tell it to abide by, um, uh, whatever rules are applicable in your particular state or federal rules around making sure it's not a housing violation. But yes, you can do that. That's sort of, I think most people know about that stuff now. But what if you were like, I don't have anything to do for the next 2 days because I don't have any client appointments? You could literally ask ChatGPT, "Hey, I'm a realtor. I have the next 2 days free, and I my goal is this. I want to reach out to 10 new people or whatever, and please give me ideas about how to do that." It will literally give you ideas,
Yeah.
so you don't even have to come up with your own ideas anymore, which I think is so cool. And yeah, so utilize AI. I think of it as like, I don't remember if it's the Odyssey or whatever. There was the Oracle at Delphi. I think maybe for the Odyssey. But anyway, whatever. It's an old Greek mythology thing. But the Oracle at Delphi was this thing, you could ask anything for, and it would tell you the answer. I feel
Yeah.
like ChatGPT is our version of that. It's not perfect, but it can do a lot of cool things. So you start talking to it,
Yeah.
and start asking it questions and asking for help. Like, hey, help me market this property. There's something really cool you can do that I'll mention real quick. I just learned about this. You can put in, I did this for myself because I wanted to see, the building I live in is only 3 years old. It's a brand new development, or newish. And so I said, I wonder what ChatGPT, which I don't even use the paid version. I have like the free version,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
only goes back to like 2020 or something. So it scours the web, but it only scours it, I think, through like 2020. I don't think there's anything more current than that in its database, although I may be wrong. Anyway, I said, I wonder what ChatGPT knows about my condo unit or my building. And I
Ooh.
said, hey, I live at this address. Tell me everything you know about it, which I was just interested to see. It knew what kind of countertops I had. It knew
Wow.
the pricing. Oh, it was wild, because
Oh, I
what
like
it
that.
did, it had probably scraped the website that was for my building when building was selling units, or I don't know where it grabbed the data from. It didn't say,
Right.
or maybe it did, but I didn't look. But regardless, it knew everything. And I thought, if I was an agent practicing, I would put this in before every listing, because
Yep.
maybe there'll be some fun little facts and things to know about the property that you would never know, or maybe even a listing agent doesn't know.
Yep.
And you'll just learn. It knew when it was built. It just knew everything. It knew what the average price points were. It was so cool. So
Yeah.
if you should do that before every listing, just to find, and if there's nothing if it doesn't know anything about the property, I would say, well, tell me some cool things about the neighborhood that maybe a prospective buyer would want to know. Like, where's the cool restaurants,
Right.
whatever. It could be anything. So yeah, AI,
Yeah. It's very
absolutely.
cool. It's very cool. It's very scary, but it's very cool.
What do you think what do we think about commissions? Now, I know New York, New
Mm.
Jersey, you guys have a very unique market there, but do we think agent commissions are going to change? Do we think, are you seeing a trend where listing commissions are coming down, going up, staying the same? Just curious.
I mean, what I'm seeing or what I ended up finding out, we started to see where that buyer's agents were only getting 2%. So usually in our market, it's a 5 or 6% listing, and we usually split it in half, 2.5 to the listing
Yeah,
agent, 2.5 to
same here.
cooperating brokers. What I started to see was more and more 2% listings. And it coincided
Hmm.
around the time that all these lawsuits happened.
Ah,
Which don't even get me started on those. But so I was like, oh, maybe it's a reflection of that. Maybe people aren't willing to give it out. No, when you actually looked at the HUDs and the closing disclosures, you were seeing that this listing agent was keeping 3 and only giving out 2. So I
yeah.
think there's going to be a little bit. I think listing agents are probably going to have a little bit more control over where that distribution lies. And we started doing it here for some properties because, to be honest, there was so much like tumultuous like fighting over deals. I don't It was a post-COVID thing. I don't know if everybody was just inside for too long. I don't know what happened, but like it was like 2 months ago. I spent the entire day arguing over a refrigerator. This guy just took his Sub-Zero refrigerator and just rolled it out the door. I was like, it's It's not like $100 refrigerator. It's a $10,000 item. Like, we have a problem here.
Yeah.
He's like, sue me. Like,
Yeah.
it's so like contentious. So I think that if you as the listing agent have that, okay, well, here, I'm going to give in like 2,000 of my, allows you to kind of control the deal a little bit more and keep things going. I mean, I think the other thing is too, with listing agents, it's not a slam dunk now, to sell, or it won't be. So I think we're going to have to do way more marketing. I think we're going to have to do way more, higher end videos and higher end promotion. And so that is costly. So I could see that being more of a shift that I'm not necessarily worried about, but vigilant of. Whether or not there's not going to be buyer's agency, I don't know. I mean, I think it's really doing the whole industry a disservice and the seller a disservice to just eliminate buyer's agency being paid. I think people think that realtors get paid too much, but if they actually saw what was going on the back end, they would be appalled. I had multiple people this year be like, I don't know why you do this. I was like, what? And they couldn't, my clients know how hard I work, and they're happy to pay the fees. I haven't honestly had pushback on fees in years, but who knows? The more that these crazy lawsuits get published, it's a sad state of affairs. I think people, well, I'll leave it at that. I think it's more along the lines of like a mental situation, a mental health situation than it is anything else. But
Yeah, I
I
agree.
I think people that have really worked with a good realtor really know how much work is done and how much we do to keep a deal together. So I think at the end, I think that'll prevail. I do think we're going to go through a weird time of justifying our fees, but I think at the end we'll be fine.
I think so too, and I think this is where skill just kind of wins the
Yeah.
game. If you're worried about if you're getting pushback on your commissions, to me, I would see that as an agent. I would see that as feedback that maybe I'm not communicating my value proposition as well as I could be,
Yeah.
and really saying, here's why I. In fact, if I was an agent, I would just say, I want to explain to you how I get paid. I want to explain to you exactly how it works, and I want to explain why I believe it's worth it.
Yeah.
And I mean, you don't have to have that conversation every time, but for anyone that's on the fence, I mean, this is kind of the lawsuits were kind of about this, where commissions were kind of nebulous and kind of confusing, and nobody really understood them except the agents, because it wasn't super obvious who was paying the commissions and how it all works. But this is a great opportunity to get ahead of it and really just explain it to buyers, saying, okay, technically you're not paying a commission, except you are paying a commission, and let me explain
Right.
how it's all baked into the price and everything, so you get a better sense of where it comes from and how it all works out. I think
Right.
just agents explaining things better is always a win. And I think to your point, I think you're not going to get as much pushback. I think when it's more confusing, I think that's when people are like, wait a minute, what am I paying? Like, it's like when I go in to buy a car, which I like never do because it's such a bad experience buying a
Ugh,
car.
I
At
just
least
did
I
it this
feel.
year. It's awful.
Yeah, you always feel like you're getting ripped off. Like nobody
Yeah.
ever is like, here's what I'm going to make if I sell you this car. Like, I'm happy to say if somebody's like, hey, I make $400 each time I sell a car. I need
Sure.
to up this by $400 so I can make like, I get it.
Yeah.
We can have that conversation. I'm not a monster, but if I feel like you're ripping me off, now I don't trust you. Or if
Yep.
I feel like I don't know the real story, now I'm like, well, now I don't know who to believe. So
Yeah.
I think with realtors, thankfully we are not car. There's nothing wrong with car salesmen. I love good car salesmen, but we know that the stigma in that industry is, I think I'm getting ripped off. I don't know. So we don't want that, that same stigma here. And I think a lot of it's just explain, tell everybody how it works. There's no secrets anyway. I mean, it's not anything
Well,
to
that's
be
the thing. I think
embarrassed about.
who isn't looking at the HUD and notice that, like, I don't know, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, obviously we're a massive line item, but it's also like, what I started to do now is literally lay out before I start working with someone exactly what's going to happen the entire
Yeah.
transaction and exactly what we're going to do for you on each side. And I've like I said, I've never had anyone push back ever.
I love that.
I shouldn't say
Yeah.
ever. The past like 3 or 4 years when it's really
Sure.
been a question, but to your point,
So
yeah, it's all transparency.
I agree. And we should also mention, I didn't do a great job of this on this episode, but I do want to mention that Lisa, she owns 2 white glove brokerages in Jersey City and in Hoboken, Engel and Volkers. If you don't know them, they're amazing. They're really, really at the top of the top of the mountain for these, high they attract very high producers. They also develop people into high producers. It's just a good company.
Thank you.
So if you are in those areas and you're an agent, now again, a company like ours, we hire tons and tons of people, but Lisa's a little bit more, she and her team are very, careful about who they bring on board because
Yeah.
they want to develop you, or they want to bring you on and find a solution for maybe an issue you're having at your current brokerage. So if you're like, I would like to work at a place like that, where, by the way, when Lisa came on board, she tripled production, that would be pretty cool if you're an agent. So how about checking out what Lisa has to offer? So Lisa, if there is an agent out there that's interested, and by the way, guys, I want to also talk about if you're a New York agent in just a second, but if somebody's thinking about maybe making a switch, Lisa, what's the best way they should reach out to learn about your brokerage?
Yeah, I mean, you could reach out to me personally. It's info@myhomeboken.com. You could text me 201-213-2617. Or you could actually, I'm on social constantly. Obviously, like I said earlier, it's a big focus for us. So you could DM me at myhomeboken. So myhomeboken.com. And then
And if, go ahead.
sorry, our brokerage account is at EV Hoboken JC. So you could do that one too. But either way,
We'll have links to all that in the show notes. Thank you for that. And also, I want to mention too that for agents that are in other parts of the country that have clients that maybe move to New York, I mean, Hoboken and Jersey City are really considered New York at this point. It's becomes, a very desirable area, regardless of what somebody's price points may be. Those are included in the sort of Manhattan sort of market. So if you have clients that are moving into New York, reach out to Lisa because her team focuses on the Jersey side. Do you guys do New York as well, or just the Jersey side?
We have a great relationship with our New York office. So we actually and our Brooklyn offices. So we could help you, we could actually do like a 360 approach. We can give you some options in New Jersey that we think are comparable to New York. And then, we can send you to New York agents and they can handle it as well. So yeah, by all means, if I'm the starting point, that would be great. So call me.
And if you're somebody where people from those areas move to, retire to, probably going somewhere further south and warmer. If you are in one of those markets where are fed from those areas, another good person to reach out to say, hey, I bet you have people that are moving. Let's figure out a way to mutually benefit each other. So reach out to Lisa and her team.
And overseas, I put 9 families overseas last year. 9.
Wow.
It's wild.
Amazing.
We have an overseas component. Like we always do a decent amount overseas. 9 is insane.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So reach out to Lisa. Also, I want you to subscribe to her podcast, which is Breakfast with Brokers. You can find it anywhere podcasts are served, and follow her on Instagram, on all the social platforms. My Home Boken. We'll have the link to that in the show notes. Lisa, thank you so much for being on our show. We greatly appreciate your time. You're amazing, a total superstar. Lisa is the person to watch. We'll have to have you on again because you have a virtual staging app as well that we didn't even get to, which is called Restaged. Check that out. It's available on your app store. Restaged. It's a virtual staging app. That's hers. Check it out. Lisa, thank you so much on behalf of the audience. We appreciate Lisa for spending an hour with us, and on behalf of Lisa and myself, want to thank the audience for sticking around to the final minute of the episode. And also, please tell a friend. Think of one other realtor that could benefit from hearing this great conversation with Lisa. Send them a link to the show. You can find us everywhere. So, Lisa, thank you so much. We will see everybody on the next episode.
This is great. Thank you so much.